Right, come on then, Maui. What is your bad point?
Mine is GamerLegion and where they are right now. And the reason I bring this up is because a lot of people looked at this GamerLegion team after they lost Shuhei and after they lost Ima and thought, okay, well, there's probably no reason to really pay attention to this team anymore. And I'm kind of fighting two things right now. The way that I've actually found them overrated, and I kind of can't believe I'm saying that given the people that are on their
It's
team.
because they've had
But
some
in terms
upsets on paper, so like I think people are overhyping them for sure.
Yeah, it's really strange to me how people talk about this roster because it does feel like some people are in a way pleasantly surprised, but in terms of what they've actually done since losing those players, sure they beat the Mongols, they beat Fnatic, they beat Apex, Greyhound, and NIP. Like that's not to me, that's not impressive. And a lot of people like where I say this first of all is community perception around Nealon, where people are like, "Oh, Nealon's a great IGL, and nobody could have made that EG team work." And I watched this team play, and I would say that Nealon's T sides sometimes overcomplicate mid rounds, where he actually tries to do too many things at once. And I've seen, like I've been talking about on, for example, the last hot take point made, the way that G2 has made Inferno look so simple, where they just take banana control and execute. It feels like, well, it doesn't feel like it. What Nealon does so often is they'll actually get control of a space, and then they'll like try to retake map control other places. And in the commotion of trying to do multiple things in the same round, they end up losing players and sometimes actually attacking the bomb site that had more people on it. And that's one of those things where it's always tough when we have X-Ray and he doesn't to know like why did he make these calls. But the main thing about GamerLegion and the bigger point here is the fact that they're still ranked 7th on HLTV and the ESL World Rankings when they are as mediocre as they are. I would personally probably put this GamerLegion team is 14th or 15th best in the world. And the fact that they still somehow have this 7th ranking on both of the rankings that do matter means that they get invites to tournaments like IEM Sydney. And the thing is now when we see this team at IEM Sydney, they couldn't even get out of an ESL Pro League group that has a Furia team that is barely holding on for dear life. Like this GamerLegion team is by no means capable of doing any damage when they get to IEM Sydney. And for one of the tournaments that's going to be probably one of the last S tier events of the year. I think it's pretty much Sydney. There's going to be this Chinese tournament. There's going to be the fall finals and world finals. I think those are probably the last 4 S tier tournaments to the best of my knowledge. And to even waste a slot on a team that they don't even really have like a serious fan base. Like I almost feel like in a funny way there's an argument to put a team like Greyhound there because it's like, okay, at least it's the home team and you can actually justify that because maybe people will buy their tickets. Like there's a financial incentive for ESL to even do that. But I can't even give you a real reason why the ESL hasn't adjusted their ranking to take GamerLegion down a peg or two. Like I'm actually legitimately confused how they didn't lose more ranking points when they made the swap to pick up Volt and Nealon. But I think it has to be because Volt had some points when he came from Into the Breach for doing well with that roster. And then I actually don't know how Nealon took any points with him onto this roster, if any. So for me to just see them at these events and to getting invites because they're still a top 10 team on HLTV to me just seems criminal because this team is by no means a top 10 team. Like there's no world in hell.
No, it's. I mean, you put them at 14th, they might even be in kind of real terms lower. The fun thought experiment with GamerLegion to play is look at the lineup and then imagine we're just before Paris or even before the RMRs, and look at the lineup and say, what is this? What is this team? Who are the star players here? Where are we expecting this team to place against other top teams? And nobody in their right minds would say they could beat a top 25 team or a top 20 team. It just doesn't have the makeup of a lineup like that. And yeah, I mean, as you bring up, it certainly highlights some problems in the ranking system, and it certainly needs to take a bigger tanking off the back of losing players. And something we do a lot as people that follow the scene is we like to distinguish different lineups especially maybe if it's just one player change and they're similar players, yes, there's some continuity. But the bigger the changes and taking in the context, the more you separate these things. And certainly when you're losing your best player and your in-game leader, this isn't the same team that played in Paris remotely. So many things would have changed, so many positions, so many different aspects of the game. How their win conditions for games are completely different. So the idea that they're still 7th is wild. I'm a little bit confused how that kind of is even possible. Maybe it's just by virtue of some of the other top teams not playing loads or something. But yeah, for sure, GamerLegion isn't a top 10 team. They're not going to remain in the top 10. And I mean, on the Neelan angle, I feel like everybody that's super up on Neelan didn't watch K23 or didn't really know a lot about that team, because we as Endpoint used to scrim them a lot because they were around that kind of top 25 to top 40 level. And the idea that the in-game leader of that team would be a strategic mastermind is crazy to me, because that team was wild. They just played off the individuals. They just ran in all the time. Not to say Neelan hasn't developed, but to paint his CV like it's really in depth and it's definitely a really well-rounded in-game leader is crazy. And so it reflects people that haven't actually watched his career a great deal. So I'm not saying Neelan can't be a really great in-game leader, but he isn't today. And the reason maybe EG did have a bit of a spike when he came in is just because they had a system, not necessarily because it was a great system or he's a great in-game leader, just because they had a system. There was a philosophy shared between those players. So yeah, I mean, the reason I wouldn't necessarily, I mean, let's just be clear here. We're kind of more criticizing the rankings rather than GamerLegion or the fan base as well. Because with GamerLegion, their resources and the players they could get, I'm not sure they could make a lineup that much better than this. That is the fundamental truth. But yeah, they're not going to stay 7th, and the team realistically shouldn't be aiming for that anyway. So yeah, it's all a bit wacky. I'm not sure how they're here, and they're not going to be here for that much longer, unfortunately.
To pick up on what you said at the end there, I will also agree. I actually do think this is about the best you could GM the squad. Remember, I know people are going to think, but they were in the major final. That will be the only thing that is ever mentioned as a piece of trivia about the team GamerLegion. It really was just like some little fucking kids Disney movie. Like, oh my God, and no-name teams all the way in the final. Like, yeah, that's it though. And it's never going to happen again. And they've changed the team so fundamentally, like you say, it's not the same squad at all. Like, you've literally taken the two most important pieces completely off the team and replaced them with inferior players. Like, first of all, the Neelan guy, remember, Shui could even frag, mate. He was doing a good job as an IGL and he was fragging. And I'll throw this in there as well. I think he had a knock-on effect, because I keep making this point on shows, but a lot of people aren't connecting the dots. That interview Tosh did when he knew Shuhei was coming back to Mouse, where he low-key flamed Dexter for not microing him as the AWPer. My first thought was, well, that explains the magical A-core fucking resurgence, doesn't it? If the IGL, if Shui's style is to be like quite controlling over his AWPer and tell him when he wants him to peak and when to do a play, and so like now suddenly it makes sense why A-core was having like little run of form again. Now that he's gone, that's gone again. Like, A-core is just an average AWPer at tier 1. I've seen him played loads now. He'll hit nice shots, but he just isn't a guy who's going to produce a lot. And he clearly, mentality-wise, isn't one of those guys with like a killer instinct. He's just a guy who just plays the game, and if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So already you don't have much firepower. Like, I think the firepower in this team's atrocious relative to a team that, like you're saying, is ranked number 7 in the world. Because that's why, to go back to what Maui said at the beginning, when people are seeing these like upsets or like close games, you're doing that thing where you're going, right, so if they do that and then they can improve some... No, that's it. Like, that's the plateau for me. I even think that's the height. And as you say, once you actually get into the weeds of analysing who they're playing, it just isn't even that good anymore. Like, first of all, they had the two big games where they won a map off Heroic and Cloud9. Right, one, Heroic is in probably the worst form this lineup has ever been in, far and away. Like, they're in really bad form right now. Two... So, like, in that match, for example, the next round was where they got utterly shit on by Ents. Like, that's who you're taking the press. So, like, Heroic won the event, guys. And then the Cloud9 one is fugazi as fuck. That was when they didn't have fucking Axile. That was the one where they had to use Buster, and they still beat you in 3 maps, mate. I think that's a point to them, not you. You don't get a point for that. They were right there for the taking. That should have been you in the bloody playoffs of Cologne. Then I'd be able to give you some props. But the real problem, as we come back, is look at the lineup, and there's no way this team can make it. Neelan is just an average IGL, and quite frankly, I hate even that angle of like, yeah, but he's so creative though. Mate, the joke there would be when you're in a team like EG and you just never win. You got to do something to justify your job. Yeah, I'd be in the bloody lab all day long. I'd be doing all sorts of crazy smoke. Because you're not going to win the fucking round. The only way you can actually look competent is to have some weird... It's like that thing last year where everyone... This is real. This isn't even a meme. This really was the narrative back behind the scenes with pro players. Was like, wow, don't fucking Fury have all these creative smokes. And I always used to tell people, it'd be nice if they won some fucking games with it then, wouldn't it? What are we talking about here? Like, the joke again is like that... That's like part one of a cool compliment. Like, you have great smokes and it's making your team really... No, it's not like you have great smokes. You still lose every bloody game. Like, what? What's the props? Like, the point of Counter-Strike is to win rounds and to be dangerous in the server. It's not synchronized swimming. You're not just doing some crazy trick or showing something off. Like, at the end of the day, that's probably the most overrated thing in all of esports is innovation. Like, I give a fuck less about innovation. I care about what works. I don't care about how creative it is. Like, you can do the most boring... Like Maui said, you can just have Nico go up fucking banana every round and hold the corner with his godlike game and win every time. It won't be at all innovative, but I tell you what, you'll win a fucking lot of rounds doing that, and it's really hard to stop. So on the Neelan one, that is so overblown because basically people are trying to find a bright spot in the dung heap that was EG. And like, that was one of the bright spots, but it was just such a bad team. Like, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant at this level. At the top 10 ranked level, Neelan is an irrelevant player. And then you look down the rest of the lineup, mate, where are the bright spots? The Isaac guy is all right, and quite frankly, that game against Heroic has made people think he's about 4 times better than he is because he had those crazy rounds. That isn't happening game to game. I've watched him play. He isn't in the... Like, I never watched this team like, wow, you need Imma and Isaac on a top team. It's like, he's okay. He's just okay. And I'll just say it right now. I think the Chaos guy is just a fundamentally bad player, mate. I've seen him. He's been playing for years. People are acting like he just came out now of like FPL. He's just been playing for years. He's just a whatever player. There's nothing about this player that excites me. So if I look at the squad overall, where's the firepower? Where are the star players? Like, here's what you need to do to know this isn't even a team that has huge dark horse potential. Think to yourself, in 6 months from now, which player are they coming to, Imma and Shuey style, to quickly snatch from this team? Nobody. There's no one on this lineup. Everyone's like, headhunting, we'll keep an eye on him. There's no like fucking Anakin Skywalker, well, we'll keep track of your career, young Skywalker. Like, no one's doing that. Like, this is whack. So to me, like what they've done now, props, enjoy it. What you did was, after a massive roster mania, you got a couple of upsets. Oh yeah, I didn't even complete the one. I did like the teams they almost beat. The teams they did beat are in the most dire straits imaginable, right? No one believes in that new Fnatic squad, I'll tell you that right now. No one even mentions them anymore on these bloody shows. We just forget they exist. Then you have like the Mongols, spoiler, they keep changing bloody players. They're clearly not happy with their team right now as it is. And then, who was the other one? Oh, NIP. Holy shit, if NIP's your scalp, mate. NIP looks like the most meh team of all time. Like, they just look like they're going to be permanently sat at like number 12 in the world for the next 8 months and just every now and then go like top 6 once, 9th to 12th next. Like, they're not going to do anything. Like, bro, actually tell me when you do something. You know what I mean? Like, who am I supposed to be bragging about in these results? Like, it's not like you came and, you know, here's the thing. If you'd won a map off like Ents and then you'd gone against like fucking G2 and you'd almost had like an upset, then I'm getting excited. This team is just whatever. Like we say, it's a mixture of holdover in the rankings from what the major lineup did, brand new rosters, meaning other people probably change where they're at. And then I would say finally, just some like odd fluky maps, just a map here and there that just went well. Like, I don't get it, because to me eye test is really meaningful, and I don't think there's any eye test value here to this team. Like, I don't get it myself. Like, even though they haven't had great results themselves, I have way more interest in that Apex lineup than I do in this fucking lineup, mate. The Apex lineup has some good players. Like, maybe they can get it together. This one, I don't think it can do anything. I'm not even hating. I just think it's, like you say, if you just make it about expectations of where they're ranked, they just make it inappropriately ranked so high. There's no way they can live up to that ranking, ever. Come on.
Yeah, the main point is the ranking, and that's why, like, in these discussions about who's rated what's overrated, what's underrated, like, the thing is, and I'll take a little shot right here. You know, like, the thing is that if you go on like an HLTV confirmed or something like that, they'll probably be like, oh, like this GamerLegion team not exciting. But they would probably never say it's overrated, and yet the reason is, like, I'm looking at your ranking that you helped build, and they are clearly overrated. Like, so the main point about what's bad about GamerLegion is the fact they are simply overrated by every ranking system. And, like, I'm not even coming at any of the players really. I just think like people are always so forgiving when people are quiet, and that's one thing that GamerLegion have done very well for themselves instead of in terms of PR. Nobody on this team has gotten loud about, oh, they actually think that they're better than they really are.
Yes.
Like the only hyping that they've done for themselves was Kiosk when he was screaming at every match during the major because he was trying to be a hype guy. But like, so this team is going to kind of quietly just slowly slip down the rankings.
And the obvious joke there, Bowie, is, to be fair, that's the one time ever his entire life on this planet Earth that he'll ever be able to do that, so fair play. Go for it, mate. Get it out your system now. You'll never be there again, so you'll never be on that major stage again. So you get out your system now. I don't blame you. You know, it's whatever. It was for you, it was like fucking, it was like a Make-A-Wish Foundation scenario, so, you know, enjoy the rest of your life.
Yeah,
I'm not sure at the end of Make-A-Wish Foundation they do say enjoy the rest of your life and then leave you, but whatever. You get the point. Come on.
This is why when that major happened, the Paris major happened, where people are like, respect the underdog story, and then we knew as people who have just been watching the scene for long enough, like, this team's just gonna get picked apart. Like, this team is like there's a core. There's two people that are incredibly valuable for this roster, and once they're gone, which they will be, there's going to be nothing left of this team that's worth watching at all. And I don't know, in some way, it's like people are still being too nice to them, but like it's just not even entertaining Counter-Strike at the end of the day to watch these guys play. So,
see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.